Welcome back to In His Perfect Image podcast. Today, in the Hebrew word series, in episode 17, we will talk about the word Khen, which means grace. So, grace is unmerited and undeserved favor. It is a free will gift given to the weaker by someone that is stronger or someone in a more favorable position. By far, the most commonly used Hebrew word in the Torah for grace is Khen. That same word can also mean favor, valuable, precious, and pleasant. And grace is, after all, considered as a treasure worth finding. So, as we already mentioned, Khen describes a gift in the form of unmerited favor, extended from someone prominent, right? Someone powerful to someone that is less fortunate and potentially even in a distressful position. One of by far the most commonly known stories of grace being extended, especially that of God, grace being extended, is of course the Exodus story. And then, of course, another account is the story of Hannah. In both cases, the parties, which is Israel and Hannah, were treated unjustly, unrighteously, oppressed for things they had no control over. Israel on one side was treated as slaves. Hannah on the other side was being mocked and laughed at for the fact that she couldn't bear children, something she had no control over. Their distress and turmoil was great, and when they cried out to God, He heard them. As can be seen from both stories, grace can be exhibited as the deliverance from distress and oppression. In other words, we can say that grace saves and delivers from unlikely and unfavorable situations. I will say even more so, it doesn't just save us. It isn't just the mercy to save us from such situations. In a lot of cases, it also brings us from shame and humiliation and disgrace to honor, even vindication. And then there's also the other aspect, which is that it also can be forgiveness and mercy extended towards someone that is undeserving. Like in the case of John Newton, which is the author, or rather the writer, of the hymn Amazing Grace, which you surely must have heard of. John Newton, during his upbringing, was not really religious. He ended up serving the royal family in the navy, and when he exited the royal service, he ended up actually being involved in the Atlantic slave trade. So one day when he was sailing, a violent storm caught his vessel, and he was battered around. And in such great distress, he decided to call out to God, and he was heard. Eventually, he exited the slave trade, and he decided to enter clergy and became a spreader of the gospel. So grace, contrary to the belief of some, is not merely God's mercy and favor. It can also be God's empowerment to do that which He has called us to do. And even more, it can empower us to overcome sin and transforms us into the original image God had in mind. As can be seen with John Newton. At the end of the day, he chose to turn away from slave trading and do that which was just and righteous. Let me end on this note. There is none more merciful or graceful as Yahweh Himself. Grace is ultimately an expression of God's love for those who are powerless or defenseless, helpless, and in most cases, undeserving. That will be all for today. Let the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace. To read more, you are free to welcome me on my blog. Until next time, Shalom.